Hey there, today we're looking at the A-7 Corsair. This is the D model. ChanceBot out of Fort Worth, Texas built the Corsair. It was built on the same airframe as the F-8 Crusader. A lot of people confuse the two, but the difference is on the A-7 we have the rounded nose and it's a subsonic bird. On the F-8 Crusader had a pointy nose and it was a supersonic plane. As we come back, we take a look at it. It's nice and big and fat. It was an attack aircraft, so it was low and slow. This airframe was actually decommissioned in 1992. This one served from 1971 to 92, so it has 21 years of service on it. Once they send the planes out to the boneyard in Tucson, one of three things happens. Sorry, waiting for the plane to go by. One of three things happens. Either they stick them on sticks or put them in museums, in front of your city and county buildings and keep them as memorial pieces, or they cut them and gut them and scrap them, or they equip them with remote control device and they fly them over the Gulf of Mexico and they blow them up for target practice. Two of those things happened with this plane. She was cut, but she was not gutted. She was set up to go to a museum, so as we go around at the end of the tour, you'll see that the cockpit is fully complete. So we kind of take a look at her. She did have service. There is some history in this airframe. This particular airframe, it did serve at the end of the Vietnam conflict in '71. Came back home, was part of the weapons program in the Air Force. She finished her run in the regular Air Force with a 23rd fighter out of England Air Force Base before they moved them to Moody. And then finally in the 4450th out of Nellis. People ask about that. What is that? Wasn't that a stealth project? It was. This bird was one of 20 that were used in the development of the F-117 stealth fighter. Guys would bring these out during the day and fly them. The cockpits are very similar. And then at the cloak of dark, they would bring out the F-117 and fly with it. Very similar in the way they handled and worth their weight in gold. So as we come back, you can kind of see where they cut her. They cut the airframe, but you can see all the lines. People often say, why don't you cover this up and cap it up? I'm like, no way. People want to see the history of these birds and what they are. Here it is, some 20, 30 years later, it still leaks hydraulic fluid today. So let's come around and take a look at her. So as we sit in the cockpit now, there's some really cool things about the A-7 that are important in history. First and foremost is this bad boy right here. This is a heads-up display. The A-7 was the first attack aircraft or fighter to ever have the heads-up display in the military. What it did in essence is it took us from crosshairs, gun sights, to a fully integrated weapons delivery system. This is the first one, so in essence it's kind of the Model A Ford of heads-up displays. Now the heads-up display is in all of your fighter jets around the world, as well as cargo planes and even cars now. The other things are the pave penny mobile mapping system. This is actually a 2-instrument setup. What this is underneath the nose of the plane there's a forward-looking, it looks like it would be a radar. It is not. Guys on the ground would laser a target. These guys had accurate topography, horizontal and vertical, up to 1,000 miles away. So they could fly in low and slow and drop their ordnance and get out before anyone knew they were there. Over the years, it's arguably the predecessor to GPS. The reason is like I said, people could fly in low and slow. They had their accurate topography, the map projection there. And 25 years later, Ronald Reagan was the president. He signed an order releasing that technology to the general public. Part of that technology was used in what we today call GPS. So it's one of the early predecessors and part of that project in developing it. Very easy to fly this plane. There was just over 1,500 A-7s built. Just over 1,000 were Navy. Just under 500 were the Air Force D models and the H&Ks. The only difference in the cockpit, armaments and your fluids and liquids, everything was opposite. All your armaments over here, the actual controls of the planes are here. Airspeed indicator, altimeter. Actually, here's our clock down here. Course and heading, and then your artificial horizon, and of course all your fluids and liquids are over on this side. Coming all the way back here to your right hand, this is the navigation computer. Over here's your throttle, very basic. Flaps, landing gear right here. Alright, so as we look around, you'll see that obviously everything is analog. The only difference in what the boys are flying today in this is the analog instrumentation. Now they have touch digital screens right in front of them with the nice edge-lit bezels. And this is old school as they get. However, A7, I still hear today from guys that ended up transferring into the F-16 and the A-10, and they all say that the A7 was one of the funnest, easiest, just fully hands-on plane to fly. They really enjoyed it. It was before the days of fly-by-wire, so you had full range of motion in everything that you did. Now it's all a little wrist control, and people like that. They feel like they're one with the plane. I hear amazing stories about this plane. A lot of people confuse it with the F-8 Crusader, not just by the way it looks, but the F-8 had a variable wing that popped up on the back. This did not have that. This was low and slow, subsonic. Top speed on this plane was Mach 0.9, and then, but it did have a massive speed brake on the bottom. It popped the speed brake, and it would drop down 12 feet from the bottom, and it would just stand it up on end and drop it like a brick. So, I mean, I could go on for hours about the finer points about the A7, but the bottom line is, this was a bad boy of its time, and I'm very blessed to be able to own it and share it with the world.